Hello, I'm Laura Furiosi, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom. If you're listening to this right now and you know that you're getting separated or divorced and you are freaking out, potentially going to be homeless or just have no assets whatsoever, what can you do? And today, this episode is for you. This is called Spousal Maintenance, How to Get It. Welcome, Mum.
Hello, Laura. Hello, everyone.
So this is a bit of a sad one, but an important one because we've just been doing some webinars recently and there have been some people just going, help, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Now, of course, there are community legal centres you can go to. Is that right?
Yep.
And legal aid. So you can ask for help without having to pay for it from those centres. But today we're going to talk you through what spousal maintenance is and how you can go for it. But remembering this is just community education, legal education. This is not legal advice.
Because we don't know
your
situation.
Yep. So, Mum, starting off with, let's start with the start. What is spousal maintenance?
Okay, so spousal maintenance is, sometimes I call it alimony because people remember that from the American cases. Alimony. But what it is a payment from one spouse or former spouse to another. It can be from a man to a woman to a man to a man, whatever it is. It's a payment to them where one person doesn't have enough money to adequately support themselves and the other person has capacity, in other words, has more than enough money to support themselves and should pay and is ordered to pay some over to the ex-partner who doesn't have enough.
Can I ask, if you are de facto separated, you never actually got married, can you get
Yes,
spousal?
you can have de facto spousal maintenance. Yes.
Phew. Okay,
yes.
So for those people that aren't married, don't worry, you're still okay.
Yep.
So that's what it is. Now, it's very easy for everyone to say, well, get spousal maintenance, but it sounds a lot harder for people, I guess, to get it. But I guess some of the questions are, when can you get it?
As soon as you separate, you can ask for spousal maintenance.
What about if you're separated under one roof?
I knew you were going to say
because
that.
so many people are.
I've never seen so many people. It must be the current.
Really?
Yeah, I've never. Used to be a really uncommon thing, and now it was like nearly a quarter of our listeners.
Yeah, you hang in there, guys. You're very special people to get through this.
Yeah.
So
you can, though, because it also helps. You can ask for spousal maintenance separated under one roof, and you make yourself clearly separated under one roof and then apply for support.
And can I ask, when it comes to alimony or spousal maintenance, is it a forever thing or is it just a temporary thing?
It used to be like 20 years ago, it would be forever until they got remarried.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
But seldom now does the court make an order like that. Mainly what the court does now is makes an order, either an interim order until property settlement happens.
So an interim order means it's a temporary thing?
Order until you get your share of the house or the whatever it is that's to be divided.
And then you can use your money the way you want.
Yeah. Or it might be for if there's kids, for instance, or something, or retraining that needs to happen, it might be, say, for a set period, like 4 or 5 years. So I'm thinking of people I've had over the years. One lady wanted to finish her nursing degree and she knew it would take her 3 years and it would cost this much. And at the end of that time, she would be able to support herself. And in the circumstances of that case, where the husband had plenty of money to support himself because he'd retrained for something during the marriage, he then agreed, but a court would have ordered, I think, that he pay my client some money to keep her going until she finishes her studies in 3 years' time. Right.
Okay. Can you have an agreement outside of the court? Do you have to go to court to get spousal maintenance?
No.
Really?
Lots and lots of people, they just use the common sense, particularly if there's been a stay-at-home parent. The other parent then clearly needs to keep contributing. And the reason they do it, cynical lawyer me, says the reason they do it is because they know that if you went to court, the court would order them to do it.
Right.
So, yes, so that's the nice, sensible approach.
So some people separate and their ex will go, okay, well, here's some money every week, or I'll pay your rent.
Until we sort all of this.
Or here's a credit card.
Yep.
Okay,
it's one of your
nice of
micro or interim plans. just until we sort out where we're heading.
Yeah.
You know, and some people fall into it, like because one person's wage always did this and paid here, or
And it just
their
stays
wages
that way.
always went into the joint account and all the bills came out. It just stays like that while people get their heads around the fact that they've just separated, and then, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, but what about those people that are nasty, financially controlling poo-poo heads?
Yes.
And they just take all the money, they
And don't
shut
pay.
everything down, and those people are just stranded.
Well, the court is a wake up to people like that.
They're a wake up.
They are. I don't think, though, in the Family Law Act they call them poo-poo heads. I'll do a search.
Your Honour, this man has a poo-poo head.
Yes.
Or this lady has a
Can
poo-poo
you hear
head.
the judge? And I find that this lady is a poo-poo head.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, so what you do, there's two sorts of spousal maintenance, and one of them is really amazing, but we don't need to use it very often. Now, one is called urgent interim maintenance, and urgent's obvious. Interim means short-term maintenance, or then there's an interim maintenance application. Now, the urgent interim application for maintenance it's listed ASAP before the courts, and the law is that you don't have to produce, or they don't have to produce their evidence or anything. You go in with what you've got, and you might say, these are my expenses, look at these bills, they're going to cut the power off, and attach that to your little affidavit.
Or I'm going to be homeless.
Yeah, and also evidence of what your ex-partner earned last year,
right?
Or whatever you've got.
They've got a boat,
yeah,
they've got a caravan.
Anything like that.
They're going overseas holidays.
Yeah.
Here's a photo.
Whatever you've got,
take
that in, and the court then can make an order for what you need, usually without too much exploration of the rights of the other person.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so even without them turning up if you've served them.
Sheesh.
However, it's a really micro short-term thing.
Okay, it's a term. And
very brief, and then the court will want to have another look at it. So usually lawyers are able to just apply for interim maintenance without making it urgent, and then we do establish the need, establish the ability. So if you're separating and you are really, really desperately broke, then you might need to consider bringing an application for urgent maintenance. Okay. But if you've got enough to tide you over for a little while, I don't think the urgent maintenance application is as helpful. The urgent maintenance order is very short term, and you might be better hanging on and doing a proper application, an interim application where you do establish your needs and that the other person has the money to pay.
And look, I think we should probably do a completely separate episode on Centrelink, or what is it called now?
Oh, Services Australia.
Whatever it's called. But I think,
we'll have to get an expert, because I do not know.
I know. I think we need to get an expert in.
Time.
I don't know if they want to come on our podcast.
A child support lady might.
But run, don't walk to the actual office of a Centrelink place that takes people. Don't go banging on doors of random. Yeah. But go in, take a ticket, sit down and just say, I need your help to explore what possible money I can get from the government, because I'm really struggling.
That's right.
And get them to go through all the potential options for you, on top of you getting spousal maintenance eventually, but at least you can have a backup from the government, because the government's not just going to let people become destitute and homeless.
You hope not.
Well, there are homeless people, but I think that the government is giving money. Like someone made a very good point to me a while back, because I was a little worried at one point, and he said to me, Laura, in my country where I come from, it was actually Pedro, there is no government help for people. You just, if you're poor, that's it. There's no handouts, there's no payments. But in Australia, we're very lucky.
We are.
That our definition of poor is different to every other country. So he said, hey, I know it doesn't sound like but you go to the government and ask for help. And on top of that, you can also go, without going to court, get child support as well if you've got kids. All right, I just thought I'd put that in there.
Online. You're right, Rilla. And I remember you told me that and that is true. We forget sometimes. So it's sometimes it's hard when you're comparing the life you had when both of you were together compared with the life you're leading now, where perhaps the other person's withdrawn support. But, you know, we're all right in this country. We'll get there
until you get your property settlement. So what does the court think about, and then we're going to talk about the page, the things you need to do to get in there. But what does the court consider when making an agreement for...
Making an order?
spousal maintenance.
Yeah, it's really just two things.
Okay.
Whether you have a need, that is, you don't have sufficient income or resources or assets to support yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, can the person that you're seeking support from, can they afford it?
Right.
Have they got a capacity to pay?
Yeah.
And typically the maintenance hearings that I've done over the years involve two steps.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in before a judge, and there's often a scope for, so we say, oral evidence where a person gets in the witness box, and then they take you through the expenses and go,
oh, wow.
Well, what about this? What's this $200 a month for hair care? You don't need that. So this is the form that we fill in. We'll talk about the forms in a minute, but they go through and have a look at your expenses and see if they're reasonable.
Well, so, hang on, wait, stop. So if you get put in the witness box, and I know when I was going through my divorce, I was blonde. I had to stop.
Yes.
It was so expensive to be blonde. I am now a brunette, and I'm staying that way. Saves a lot of money. But if someone had put that, like, I get my hair done, but they've always got their hair done.
They've always had their nails done.
Does the court not see that as a need?
No, I think not.
Oh,
I think they'd say, look,
so
that's
unfair.
A bit high. Yeah, it is a bit high but there's always a difference. And I know you talked about cutting off legs and cutting off arms the other day, but it's about dividing.
She means in an
cake.
episode,
in
percentages. We're talking about percentages.
She was saying you've got to work out what you're going to cut off. But a cake, it's a cake, and the money now has to support two separate households and two separate real estate properties, and you no longer have that luxury.
Okay.
So, yes, so they'll go through, but also they go through then the person who's supposed to pay will say, oh, but I earn $3,500 a week, but my expenses are $3,600 a week. And so the barrister for you would trawl through those and go, really? Are you spending this much on your super? You're putting extra money in your super, or you're doing this, or you're paying money for someone else, going on holidays. So that all gets taken into account. And then the judge decides, do you have a genuine need? And if you do, how much? And does the other person have capacity to pay you? And if so, how much? If he can't pay or she can't pay all that you need, then how much of that can that person pay?
Right.
And typically they do a little bit of a divide, and I think both people walk out a little bit unhappy.
How long does that usually take?
Oh, it can take a half a day, full interim hearing.
That's mortifying.
It is embarrassing. I've seen it. Well, what do you buy at the chemist, Mrs. Such and Such?
Really?
Yep.
Medication?
Yeah.
Gee.
And I had a lady who had all her dog expenses in.
And they said no?
The judge didn't, but the other side tried to allege that she should get rid of the dog.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. So it is humiliating, but really it's better than nothing.
Short-term pain for long-term pain?
Well, yes, it just gives you stability.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess it would be horrible if one of our listeners is listening, and I know we've got some members who are a bit worried that they're going to have to pay spousal maintenance. You would want them to diligently go through it and make sure they're not just going and spending it on buying vintage Barbie dolls like I sometimes do now.
Yes.
Go and buy my vintage Barbies. Yeah. Okay. So, Mum, the next question is, can you go for it? So can you go for it if you're still married?
As long as you're not divorced, I mean, even if you're not divorced, yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, so you can always do that.
Okay.
Same as
because divorce is a different process altogether.
That's right, the actual divorce. And remember, there's time limits for spousal maintenance.
Yeah.
And so that'll be the same with the de facto relationship, 2 years from the breakup of your de facto relationship. And family law with the divorce, it's usually 12 months after the divorce. The exception to that is one that doesn't really apply here, but it might be that if you've already got an order within your 12 months of the divorce, say the order is, I don't know, $120 a week, and then after the divorce you need to change that order to get more, even though it's well after 12 months after the divorce, you can go and change it because the original order was made within that 12 months. You don't have many people these days who are getting maintenance for the rest of their lives.
Well, what if you get remarried?
Well, then it stops.
Okay. This is so weird. Okay. All right. So how do you apply?
You didn't ask the obvious question.
What?
What happens if they go into a new de facto relationship?
I do hear about people doing that all the time to cheat on Centrelink or child support.
Yeah,
I don't know if it counts in child support, but yeah, they get a partner, but they pretend they're friends.
Yes.
So what happens then?
Well, if the court's satisfied that they're in a new relationship, that you're in a new relationship, then it might stop the child support. But
the maintenance,
sorry, not the child support. Yes, the spousal maintenance. But if they're not sure, they might not. You know, and I mean, a marriage is so black and white. You're either married or you're not married. But de facto is very grey.
Yes. Very confusing. Okay, so how, Mum? So obviously you've got, so if you're listening today, hopefully you've got already set up your Centrelink. Hopefully that's starting. Child support, if you've got kids, you've got that started, because that's something you can do pretty quickly.
Yep.
Hopefully you've also started to negotiate for property settlement because you're entitled to some of the property pool. It's not all theirs. No. Even if they earned it, please remember that. Even if they say it's all mine, you only stayed at home and did nothing, don't listen to them. You are entitled to that. So but that property settlement is going to take ages.
Yep.
So maybe the spousal maintenance is what you need to apply for to keep you going until that time.
Yep.
So, Mum, how? So how do we apply, Mum?
Well, it's a standard application in the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia, FCOA. You go to their website, you download the initiating application, which I think is the Form 1, and that is the document that you fill in. You fill in your name and addresses and so forth. You put in the orders, and it would be something like that the respondent, because you'll be the applicant, pay to the applicant the sum of blank dollars per month or per fortnight. And then the next paragraph, next order would be, and that money be paid on the 1st of every month or the 30th of every month, whatever, into the bank account of the applicant. And you can put your bank account details in there as well. So that those orders.
That's all you write.
So, they're your kind of orders.
Remember, this is education, so get some legal advice.
So it sounds like that, Okay. And then sometimes you might put, if you've been asking for it and they haven't agreed, you might put that they pay your costs. That the respondent pay the applicant's costs.
Right, because it does cost money to put that. The irony of this is, no offence, Mum, no offence to the courts. Well, if you're asking for money because you're struggling, you have to pay to put it in. Well,
you might be able to, if you've got a Centrelink card, you usually don't have to pay to file the document. And if you haven't got a Centrelink card, but you really don't have any money, and that often happens where there's a business or companies that you're director of or shareholder of, but you actually don't have access to any money, there's a form to fill in, a notice of hardship, and then for waiver of fees due to hardship, and you may not have to pay any fees, okay? So then you also have to fill in a financial statement, and that needs to be...
that's a fun jaunt.
It is.
They always get you to fill in financial statements for everything.
And this one, well, the court doesn't know otherwise.
Oh, true.
And the worry about this one, but this is the harder version of the financial statement. So it's your normal financial statement, but that bit at the end that we normally tear off and don't need, part N for November, is N for nightmare, and you have to break down your expenses.
Right.
And it has a column for you and a column for each of the children if there are any. So it might say like food, right? And then you're supposed to put how much you spend altogether, and then how much is for you and how much for the kids, which is all a little bit artificial.
You just got to guess.
So, people have a rough idea and they go, oh, well, I've got teenage children, they eat their heads off, whatever. It might be half-half. Then and it goes right through everything: clothing, medical, haircuts, holidays, electricity, car, rego, all of the things, all of your expenses. Now, your main part of your financial statement has got the big stuff like credit card debts and house payments and things. So this is like the incidentals and living expenses. And when you get to the bottom, you add it all up, right? And if you don't know, you put an E in front.
Okay.
And as I've said, I think I've said it before. So when they want to know what you pay for car rego, for instance, if you pay, I don't know, is it $100 a month or something?
I have no idea.
Then you don't just divide that by 4 and say it's $250 a week, because there actually are more than 4 weeks in a month sometimes. So what I want you to do, if you have an annual fee amount you pay, then I want you to work it out as for 12 months right? So if you pay something every 3 months, multiply it by 4. If you pay something every month, multiply it by 12, and then divide that 12 that number
By 52.
by 52, because that will give you your true weekly amount. Okay.
Right.
That's an interesting one. And then you add them all up.
So the financial statement, when you're doing your initiating application for spousal maintenance, it's just the normal application form.
Yep.
Does the financial statement is also on the FCOFCOA website?
It's there.
Okay.
And you really probably need to fill it in first so you know what to ask for in your order.
Idea.
So in your application. So you might, it's a good thing you'll be sitting down when you fill it in, because some people, especially if you're living very hand to mouth, you're not game to look at what your expenses are. You're going to have to. And it's not really what you spent last week because you couldn't. It's the stuff that has to really be done.
Okay. So
and I think artificial nails and hair colouring is a little bit, the court's not, they're okay for a haircut. But, you've got to be careful not being
not
extravagant.
a $600 gold foils?
No, dear, no, can't do that one.
Okay. All right.
And so the court will, then you add it all up, and that tells you your income is written on the front page or the second page of your financial statement. Underneath it, it says total expenditure. You add all these bits up and then put the number there. And the difference between the two, the shortfall, is what you should ask for spousal maintenance.
Okay. But see a lawyer.
See a lawyer. It's tricky. Yeah. But if you can do a lot of this yourself.
You can fill all this in yourself. Yeah.
You'll save a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But just go and see the lawyer. Just double check that's all right.
So a financial statement, initiating application.
You've got to do a genuine steps certificate to say that you have tried to mediate or tried to negotiate.
So are you telling me to get spousal maintenance, if it's not urgent,
if it's not urgent,
you have to try and do mediation?
You do. Well, you have to try to negotiate.
Okay.
And it might be that you should go to a free mediator for this sort of thing, because you don't want to be spending more money. And really, whether you need to see a lawyer at this stage, I don't know, but it wouldn't hurt to get an idea.
Where do you find a free mediator?
I think Relationships Australia are based on your income.
Okay.
So they might charge you nothing.
Property?
They can do this sort of spousal maintenance things,
So before they've even filled in the forms, maybe
maybe not.
Might have to have a look, Mum.
I don't know. It's not Relationships Australia. It's Centre Care does property. Care. Yeah.
But I think if you have a look at the financial statement, so I'll put a link in the show notes. Everyone can go there, fill it in, have a look at what the gap is.
Yes.
Then try and mediate with your ex and negotiate and say, hey, look, I need spousal maintenance until property settlement, which will speed up property settlement, I bet you.
Yeah.
Here's my thingy. This is what I'll be putting in, or tell them how much the shortfall is. Can we go to mediation?
Yeah.
If they refuse mediation, that's when you file in court.
That's right. And then you fill in.
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. We're there waiting for you right now. If you want to get more out of the Divorce Course, all you have to do is go to the Divorce Course podcast at Facebook or TikTok, or the Divorce Course on Instagram. There we share bite-sized pieces of information and bite-sized inspiration and motivation to help you through this difficult time. Come and join our community and let us know you've joined. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah.
If they refuse mediation, that's when you file in court.
That's right. And then you fill in your genuine steps certificate, which says I've tried.
Yes.
I've tried to mediate, I've tried to negotiate.
Yeah.
And I've given him, you have to give him notice that you're going to go, him or her, notice that you're going to go to court, 2 weeks notice of intention, unless it's urgent. And also, unless if it's likely to expose you to any domestic violence, then you need to keep your address concealed and,
Okay, so, all right. So let's think this out as a plan. You're sitting on the couch, you're freaking out about money. Go and download the financial statement, fill it in, figure out where your head is at, what can you cut out, because the court's not going to give you money.
Grab a calculator, a cup of coffee and some chocolate.
And then email your ex or use a lawyer, whatever it is that you can afford, and say, hey, I think I'm going to need spousal maintenance. Are you willing to go to mediation, or are you willing to agree to it?
Yeah.
If they're just willing to agree to it, then sweet.
Well, you might ask for $300 and they'll offer you $280 and you think, I can live with that.
Yeah. And then if they say no, not going to mediation, and the mediator's tried, you get the certificate, You then have to write them a letter to say, if you
I
don't
intend to go to court.
help
Yeah.
with this situation, I intend to take you to
Yeah.
court within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's a long process.
Well, I think you can condense that telling them you're going to go to court. I think you can do that in the first letter when you ask them for the money.
Right.
You can say to her, I want this much by spousal maintenance, and if you don't respond, then I propose to go to court within 2 weeks, and these are the orders I'm seeking.
Right.
And you have to set it all out.
Now, that seems really scary. So hopefully for everyone, their ex will agree when you ask them in a letter or in mediation.
And just remember, Centrelink payments, we've imagined in our imagination, we've taken our person to Centrelink and they're getting some payments. As far as the court's concerned, they don't count as income for the purposes of working out your maintenance.
Oh, okay.
So if you're getting, I don't know, $300 a week and $200 of it is child support, the court will assume you're only getting $100 a week.
Oh, that's good to know.
You still have to put it in your document, but for the purposes of working out how to help you pay your bills, basically what the family court says, with the Commonwealth, it's Commonwealth body, and the Commonwealth government is they pay the pensions, and they're protecting the public person. And basically, their thought process is, I think, why should the community pay for your wife or your husband
when this guy or this lady
when your partner can
you can support
pay for
each
it.
other
So and we do have an obligation to support each other. So that's why it says specifically in the Act that any income tested pension or benefit is not counted as income.
So maybe is there a consideration then if you are getting Centrelink or child support that it will be reduced if you're getting spousal maintenance?
Oh, usually will be reduced.
All right. So you need to look at that.
You do.
And weigh up what's better.
Well, maybe, yes.
Because you have to go to court for this.
Yes, that's true.
Now, in saying that, Mum, it does seem very scary to be like, well, if you don't do this, I'm going to take you to court. And I'm guessing these people who are listening to this episode probably don't have the money for that.
Yeah, they can represent themselves.
They can represent it, but there's also usually a lawyer.
A duty lawyer on the day.
Duty lawyer.
They can give you a bit of advice. They won't appear for you, but they'll give you some advice. So just ask if you can talk to the duty lawyer.
So you go into the court and you say, I'd like to talk to a duty lawyer.
Yes.
I think we've completely skipped a big step.
What's that?
And that is you've filled in your financial statement, you've filled in your genuine steps certificate, you've filled in your initiating application, asking for spousal, but you haven't filed it.
Oh, well
you can't go to court.
People know to file.
No, people don't.
Well, okay, so if you write, you've given them the warning and then you actually have to follow through.
Yep.
Well, you don't have to, but I never make a promise about something like that without following through.
Okay.
Because you want your partner, your ex, to know you mean it. When you say something, you mean it.
Okay.
So
can you walk into court and file it, or is it better to do it on a portal?
It's better to do it on the portal. If you've got e-filing, they really want you to do e-filing.
So it's called ComCourts.
ComCourts, yeah.
And you can find it. You can go onto the Federal Circuit Family Court of Australia website and find the information about that.
Yep.
If you do our course, we talk you through how to do the ComCourts.
It's compulsory.
Portal.
Yep.
You upload your documents. It won't let you file if you're missing any documents.
That's true.
So once you've filed them, actually we missed one.
Document, an affidavit.
No, we missed something before that. Got to get someone to sign it.
Oh,
Mum.
yes, sign it.
So you've got to go and find someone who will witness it, and it can't just be your friend, can it? Has to
They've got to be a JP or a solicitor.
JP or a lawyer. And you can find JPs at shopping centres?
Often in Westfield and in country towns. There's generally one at the pharmacist or at a real estate agent.
And there is a resident JP usually available at the magistrates'
courthouses, in most states and most places. So, and while you're there, you can get the affidavit that we forgot to talk about signed. Now, your affidavit's just going to be quite short.
Yeah.
It can't be more than I think it's 10 pages altogether, but it shouldn't need to be that long. And it'll give a little bit of the history. I'm this old, she's that old. We married on this date, we're separated on this date, or we began de facto. And I'm not working, and say why you're not working. I'm looking after a child under the age of 18 or whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
And then and then you put in the circumstances of the other person's work as far as you know it, and set out why you need support, why you can't get a job, why it is that you need maintenance, and for how long you need it. And that's your sort of reasons to give to the judge. So you swear that and then lodge that, okay?
Right. And when you lodge it, it costs you money.
Unless you've got an application, you've got an exemption from paying the fee,
right,
by way of having Centrelink payments, a Centrelink card, or through hardship, as we talked before.
Okay.
So you've done up your documents, you've asked him for them or her for the money, you've filed them all in the court, and it's 4 documents. It's the application for spousal maintenance, which is a general application, initiating application, that is. Number 2 is your financial statement. Number 3 is your affidavit. And number 4 is your genuine steps.
And an application for exemption of fees.
And that little sheet of paper for that as well.
Holy moly, that's a lot.
And with the affidavit, you attach some bill. If you've got bills that are not paid, attach them to your affidavit and just show.
Or if you've got a foreclosure, mortgage letter, warning letters.
Whatever. Yeah.
Just list it all there.
Yeah.
And
you need to take in your bank statements and things to show the court that you don't have any money.
And how long does it take from filing it to something happening?
Well, if you've asked for urgent hearing, it should be quite quick, like a few days. If it's not an urgent application for spousal maintenance, then it'll be on the next duty list, and the court tries to get that in within 6 weeks.
Right.
And that's why I always say to people, if you're going and there is money or money in the redraw facility and you're leaving, you might not want to touch it, or you might think it's a bit of a betrayal. But honestly, if you take at least half, you can always give it back.
Can eat.
Yeah, and that's right.
You can always give it back and make sure it's yours. Like it's
don't take it from a company.
Joint money. Yeah. So the other thing, Mum, we forgot to mention is you need to give it to the other side. They need to know.
Serving them. That's right.
They need to know.
Yes.
So how do you serve it to them?
You get someone to take it over to them. If they've got a lawyer, you can send it to them. But yeah.
So you send it to their lawyer, or you can take it over.
Well, yes.
And say, here you go.
But you're better to have a stranger do it, or someone who isn't biased to say, no, I really did give this document to him, just in case he doesn't turn up.
Okay.
And then they've got to file a response.
They need to come to the court. So you'll be given a court date.
Yeah.
So they'll be told, here's these applications. This is what they've filed. They're looking for spousal maintenance. Here's the court date. This is the court you need to turn up to.
And you've got things to do. So if the respondent then needs to file a response. The
respondent, who's your ex.
Yeah. The person who is responding to your application has to file pretty well the same documents, except instead of an initiating application, it's a response. Then he has to file, or she has to file, a financial statement, and then usually an affidavit. And you've also got to swap some tax returns, your 3 most recent tax returns, completed superannuation information form, and a copy of the last 4 business activity statements if they've got a business.
So your disclosure.
Yeah, really disclose. You've got to do it before you go to court.
Right. So basically, for some random reason, we have a how to fill in the response to initiating application form on our website.
Yeah.
We don't have the initiating application form on our website at the moment, but you can go look at that if you are responding. But it is pretty much the same as the initiating, really.
It's not much different. Yeah.
But it is a big, long process. But if you start the ball rolling with the easy things we've talked about, you might not get to this point. Now, how often do people end up having to go? How many spousal maintenance trials have you done?
I've probably only done about 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because usually they give in?
Yeah.
Okay.
They settle in. Because once you've got your evidence there and they know that,
they'll be in court.
They have to pay something. And it's a question of how much. Does
it affect the property outcome if a judge has seen that they had to order the person to do spousal maintenance?
No.
So you presenting your nasty ex who's financially controlling you does not in any way affect the judge's opinion of a property settlement?
No.
Oh, wow.
Personalities don't count. Look, you've heard that expression, blind justice. So
No, I've never heard
divorce,
that expression, but yes.
Well, that's why they normally have that goddess with her
She's got
blindfold
eyes
on.
blindfolded.
Yes, because they're not meant to be partial. They're meant to be impartial and not take sides.
Okay.
And that sort of history, that like it's unlikely that your spousal maintenance hearing will take place before the judge who ultimately does the property anyway.
All right. So as Mum said, it's really rare that anyone ever actually gets to that point. As long as you start the motion, fill in the forms and be like, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to have to go to court, they usually are going to give in. So that fear that you're probably feeling in your gut of, one, I've got no money, and two, I'll have to go to court on my own, both of those fears can be alleviated if you just do some painful paperwork.
Absolutely. And, you know,
some number crunching.
Yep. Well, some of the ways that they've settled recently, the ones that I've done, is one, they've had they had a rental property and they just agreed that my client would keep the rental money going forward, to keep her head above water, so to speak. Or there might be like a lump sum payment or something. So it's generally the court. I mean, we do end up in the court over it sometimes.
So it doesn't have to be every week, a payment per week. It could be a lump sum payment.
Spousal maintenance. Yes, you could ask for that. Yep.
Okay. So if you're at home and you are freaking out about money, you don't have to. If there's a massive property pool, there's a massive property pool. If your ex makes a squillion, it does not mean you have to suffer.
But even if there's not a lot,
yes,
it shouldn't be one of you struggling and one of you not.
Yeah. You should both be struggling.
Yeah.
Is that basically the attitude?
Or just comfortable.
Yeah. But I think it's really hard for people, especially I have a feeling that it's usually, I do think it's usually the women that just suck it up and keep it quiet and don't tell anyone they're struggling. And I mean, it must be even harder for a man to apply for spousal maintenance in some ways because of the modern. People still have old days of opinions.
That's right. We're
not modern yet.
No.
So both people are struggling, and particularly if you've got a manipulative, controlling ex, or if it was domestic violence, or it was high conflict, and you were scared of them. The last thing you want to do is threaten to take them to court.
Well, and do you know what sort of support those people often offer is, I'll pay your mortgage for you, but you have to stay there. Or, and so it's like a controlling thing.
So you're like a bird in a cage.
Use my credit card, yes, to buy your groceries. And then it's, what were you doing over there? I'll take that off. What did you get that from the health food shop for? I'm not paying that.
So don't let them control you with the credit card and then make you go through the statement. You'd rather be off, you give me some money and I'll look after myself.
And the court will normally order that. So that's what, in my experience.
Yeah.
But that's a trap where they sound really plausible. What do you mean she wants more money? Or what do you mean he needs a lump sum? I've already said I'm going to pay his electricity, I'm going to pay his phone. But it's just that there's no dignity in that.
And in that spousal maintenance, can they ask for money so they can see a lawyer?
No, that's really an interim property settlement.
Right. Okay.
And
so
that's a whole other story.
So
that's one of your other things that you can do if you're broke in the early stages and your other person. If there's a real imbalance between the financial situations of both, and I've had it where one party's having a full gold service lawyer and buying jet skis, and the other lady, my female lady, she was worried about paying for a $198 hour.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
Well,
so we try to sort that
lawyers are freaking expensive. So that could be another whole episode altogether. Actually, we do have an episode on what you can do if you can't afford a lawyer. So we have actually talked about this before, so I'll try and find that episode and pop it in as well. So to those out there that are worrying right now, I hope this spousal maintenance episode has helped a little bit.
Yeah, I hope it has.
And I hope that most of you can settle this and sort it out pretty quick.
And go to the Family Court website. They've got some great DIY tips. Those documents are all there on the FCFCOA website.
Yeah.
And they have a do-it-yourself financial statement kit for filling in.
Yeah.
And so it's more patience than anything else that you'll need.
Yeah.
And the magic E, if you can't work out exactly how much or you don't know exactly how much, then put an E in front of it for estimated and give it your best quality guess.
Look, I know when it comes to money, I've got a weird relationship with money and I freak out and I would rather not know because I don't know, for some reason I used to think I was safer if I didn't know
Yes.
But I have learnt I've got to look at money. I've got to understand what's happening with my money, and I've got to know what my budget is. And now I feel way more in control.
Yes.
So if anyone out there is avoidant and they're just freaking out and they just want to put their head in the sand, I think tackling this will make your divorce journey a heck of a lot less stressful. Because if they pressure you to settle for property because you're desperate for money,
because you've got the phone bill,
you're not going to be thinking for the long-term best interest. You'll be thinking, I'll just say yes so I can get some money.
Yeah.
And that's why I think people need to know that this is an option.
Yeah. I call it starving you out. And I think they do. So, this is time for our ladies and men to sort of stand up for themselves, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And begin to get some new normal.
Yeah. And if you can't afford to see a lawyer to give you some help with this, go and find out the free legal
services in your
legal
state.
services in your state, and they will hopefully guide you through a little bit. But go and do the financial statement right now. And if you haven't gone to Centrelink and if you haven't applied for child support, that is something you can do.
First thing in the morning.
Make that one step towards a better future.
You can do stuff online.
All right. Thank you so much, Mum, for your time.
You're welcome.
And hang in there, everybody. I hope this episode was helpful.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you, Laura.
If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only, and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording.